let me welcome one of the most venerable business families of India, the original entrepreneurs, the original industrialists, and a legacy of business and contributing to the nation, which is huge, and possibly very few people can match that. Very few families can match that, and very few businesses have kind of reinvented and stayed relevant for the number of years this family-owned enterprise has been around. So let me welcome the Chairman and Managing Director of DCM, Mr. Ajay Shriram, to the BW Dialogue. Mr. Shriram, good afternoon. Welcome to the BW Dialogue, and thank you for talking to us.
Annurag, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here indeed, and I really appreciate you inviting me.
You're always very kind. First of all, Mr. Shriram, how have been the last 180 odd days for you, both personally and professionally?
It's been literally, if I must say so, out of the world experience. It is something which has been very unique. If one takes the personal side first, this lockdown came on the 24th of March. Coincidentally, on the 18th of March, our family from our Vasant Vihar home, we shifted to our mother's farm in Rajukri, Western Greens, because of some work going on at Vasant Vihar home. And so here we are with my mother, our whole family, my two boys, one's wife, our granddaughter, and my, of course, wife. We are all here together.
So a lot of family time.
So there's a lot of family time over here, and 6 months have been an amazing experience, I must tell you. I think the time one has got to spend time with the family, that is the most. As we were briefly discussing, right after our marriage, which was over 40 years ago, I shifted out of Calcutta. So I am spending time with my mother for such an extended period for the first time. So that's a wonderful experience in itself. And over and above that, with the family together, that's a wonderful experience in its own way. This has given time to introspect. This has given time to think about, and as you know, I've been a member of YPO, Young Presence Organization. And it's a very structured way of looking at your updates, as we used to call it in the old days, on yourself, on your family, and on the business. So one has got time to think of all these. And it's been learning in its own way. For instance, to be honest, my realization on the importance of maintaining health as age is catching on struck me much stronger. So I've really tried to exercise much more at the farm. I've lost some weight. So that has helped me. I think I feel good about it. On the business side, one has got a lot of time to think about that also. Or what is the future? What is the direction? What are the strategies? What one wants to do? That's part of it. But I think one or two more learnings have come, because we came here with one suitcase, thinking that we will actually be here for a couple of months. But the lockdown changed the whole structure. So my wife and I and my sons, we are living out of one suitcase for the last 6 months. And we're quite happy. It's worked out quite well. So that's a new learning experience we've all had.
Less is more.
Yes. And we've also learned how to be more content. It's not necessary that you go out on material things and all that. Yes, we miss our friends a lot. We miss meeting larger family a lot. But at the same time, I think it teaches you a lot of how to be content with yourself. So I think on the personal side, it's been a wonderful experience. I think we made the most of it, all of us together. So that's been great. On the business side, of course, there have been stresses. I mean, the biggest issue because of the corona, the lockdown, it dislocated the operations very substantially. That also, one of the big concerns we had was for our people. Because, our people being exposed in smaller cities, in large towns, in rural India, the fear of corona, of course, is a very high on the agenda. So that was also something which, gave us a lot of time to think about. And but fortunately, I would say, this has again been time to introspect on the business. We've had detailed discussions with our people of what we can do differently, because it is a new norm. There's no two ways on that. One can't run the business like one did 1 year ago. One has to revisit the entire structure, organization, the learning of the digital world, and how it actually changes your way of learning, way of meeting, way of communicating, way of decision making. I think all that has been through a change, and it's in a way, I would say, much more efficient. Because you have a con call, video call, virtual call. You spend
Mr. Shriram, I won't ever use the word con call. I tell people I don't con people, so I don't do con calls. I do conference calls. So you really mean a video conference call?
So now it's actually a virtual call.
Yes, sir.
Very, very frequently. And that's where decision making happens. But at the same time, I must be honest, Annurag, I'm missing office. You know, the pleasure of sitting in office, meeting officers, meeting people, having a cup of tea together, interacting and changing, and that's also something which is quite.
Absolutely. We all miss that. Mr. Shriram, you, just for the benefit of our audience, what Mr. Shriram is saying, less is more, frugality matters. While digital has its learning and its advantages, the more digital and technology grows, the value of human touch becomes even more. That's what I hear from him. He's also saying that while there are benefits of flexi working, I don't call it work from home, I call it flexi working, but the office experience is an office experience of being face to face. I think you get done a lot more in the office very fast. You're able to take decisions. There is full involvement. On a screen, while there can be full involvement, necessarily full involvement is not full emotional involvement. And dare I say, Mr. Shriram, you're wiser than me in every aspect. But my point of view is that flexi working or work from home doesn't necessarily work for the whole organization. There is a spirited, self-motivated set of professionals who can work from home, who can work in lockdown, who used to work before the lockdown. To them, any place doesn't matter. But other people may need motivation. They mean constant mentoring, constant hand-holding, constant monitoring, if I may say. So really, I'm not a big believer in work from home. Right now, we have a compulsion, so we are doing it. Let's see when we have a choice whether we do it in exactly the same manner or not. My hunch is we'll still go back to our office and kind of use digital occasionally, and a lot more than we did. Now, let me come to... Yes, go ahead, Mr. Shriram. You want to make...
I just said, I think, even after things come back to normal, the learning has been that there are certain functions which can still be done where you don't require to come to office every day, 5 days of the week. It
Right.
can be differently, because I do feel that we're coming to office is where the culture is set.
Absolutely.
What is the sort of ethos of the organization? These things come about only when you are able to behave and show the behavior in a particular way. So these things require a physical face-to-face interface. It can't be done digitally all the time. So it's going to be a balance. I think it'll have to, in each organization, type of business, has to find the right balance.
Thank you so much. I think, Mr. Shriram, life is about balance. It's about trade-offs. And I think the last 6 months have taught us a lot. I mean, I'm not experienced as you. I don't have grandchildren. I have 2 young children, young adults. But I can tell you that what it has taught me is 6 things. And, it's a conversation with you. But I see a large audience. We have almost 200 people just on Zoom. And we have another 500-600 people on Facebook, maybe more. And we have another 200-300 people on Twitter. So it's the beauty of digital is larger audiences. If we did it in a hotel, we'd be able to only get 200-300 people. So clearly, I want to say my top learnings are 6. 1, peace of mind matters. So sleep matters. I think for a lot of time, we deprive ourselves from sleep. I think if you sleep well, everything else happens. You will lose weight, you'll eat well, you'll take better decisions, you'll have better relationships because you listen better. When I sleep better, I listen better. Second is, what matters is respect, maintaining the respect. I think we all live for respect, and maintaining that, earning that is easy, maintaining that is what matters. Third is never say never. If Mr. Shriram, I said to you that the whole GCM Shriram group will work from home for the next 6 months, you'd ask me, what am I smoking? Right? Clearly, never say never. Fourth, you said right upfront, less is more. And fifth is, you again said it, you're fundamentally questioning every driver of your business. And last but not the least, it has made us kinder, compassionate, better. And we've become more humble as a community, as human beings. So that's what my top learnings are. Mr. Shriram, there's been a debate about lives and livelihood. You and me are mindful of the tough situation that a lot of people had to go through. Uh, Tell us, business and economy has come top of mind because uh, business and economy creates jobs, jobs create livelihoods, livelihoods run families. What's your outlook on the business and economy? When do you see it coming back in full bloom? We'd like a detailed prognosis and maybe a suggestion what can make it better.
I'm not an economist, but I think from the point of view of just seeing business over the last many years and how the sort of environment evolved, the corona crisis actually created havoc in all countries of the world, not only India. Personally, I think having that initial lockdown was a good step because our system, our medical system, our healthcare system was not geared to take care of a very large jump of corona patients, which would have come because of the population density in our country and because of the sort of lack of space, if I may use that word, in many places. So we've had a very difficult time for the last 6 months. One feels really bad about people who've been caught up and migrants who couldn't go back on time, etc. That is something which, okay, that's part of the past now. But I think I would feel that the government did at least come out with a fairly detailed 20 lakh crore rehabilitation plan or a restructuring or a support plan in about, I think it was in May when they came out with this plan across the board, covering all aspects of the business. If one goes through even the corona time, the agriculture sector moved quite well. We are in the sugar business and in the ethanol business from our sugar factories. We are in hybrid seeds business. We are in value-added agri-inputs business. And I must tell you, Annurag, the state government, at least in UP we saw and in other states, they were very proactive in helping the agri sector, which was functioning, to run better. I'll give you an example, for instance. The Chief Secretary Sugar in UP was personally ringing up the IG police saying that particular factory's truck is stuck on the border with sugar bags, HDP bags. Please get it released as required in the factory to pack the sugar. But they were really going out of the way. So agri sector did well, a couple of other sectors did well, healthcare, IT, all these things did fairly okay. FMCG sector did well. So some of these have done fairly satisfactorily. Of course, there are many other sectors. Real estate has been in deep trouble. Airlines, tourism, a lot of other sectors have been under a lot of stress. I think now the government is moving out. We are seeing in the last 2 months, auto sectors picking up, two-wheeler sectors picking up. Other sectors are also picking up gradually. The government is also, what I'm seeing, and I'm happy to see that every couple of days or weeks, they're coming up with some new scheme or some plan. They're trying to see how to do ease of business better. Now, it's not so easy. I mean, we are seeing the impact on economies across the board. It's not funny. The amount of money UK has spent or US is spending or European countries or Japan. Canada is huge compared to the size of their economies. So we've had a shock in the first quarter of a GDP degrowth of 23.9%. That's severe. I think what is required to be done, which is moving, but more can be done there, is how to boost consumption. Because that is something which really can give a fillip to the demand side. How does one do that? That is required. I think the banking system has to more proactively move to lend money to companies, especially SMEs. In fact, we have made a recommendation through CII that why don't you look at the GST payments which have been made by SMEs over the last 1 year or 2 years and give a percentage of that as loan to the SMEs for them at least to pay their workers and to get cash flow going for their operations. How do we do things of that type? The government itself owes a large amount of money to various, whether it's contractor companies, whether it's the fertilizer industry, which we are involved with, many others. Please start paying that faster. They have started giving tax refunds a little more. But tax refunds itself gives liquidity in the hands of people, which will actually give a boost to the economy. Spending will go up. So I think the government also has to do some more steps over there. And agriculture sector is one thing where the policies the center announced in the rehabilitation plan of opening up the flow of goods and materials, the Essential Commodities Act being loosened up, etc., are very positive. But one big challenge we have as a country, Annurag, we are virtually 29 mini Indias within one India. Each state is a virtual
Bharat.
You look at it, agriculture type of subjects are totally state subjects. But you take electricity, water, labor, power, land, it's all concurrent subjects. So center may want to do something, but end of the day, it is the state which has to implement it. So how does one work in a more coordinated manner with the state to implement policies going forward? I think that is a very big challenge which the center is having. In a couple of meetings I've had with people in government over the last couple of years, I did mention, I said, look, the NDA and the BJP NDA is in power. Why don't you choose the BJP NDA states and form a little consortium and try to push those states faster to bring about economic change or what you want to do?
Because they're on the same page. They have the same political dispensation.
Push that faster so it brings about change. How to bring about that? I also suggested, and again, various forums one gets an opportunity to talk, like one has the GST Council, have an Agri Council. Agriculture is again the state subject, but the impact on over 50% of India's population is very high. How can we have some sort of uniformity in thinking in the agriculture sector, between the states and the center? So that can help. So I think there's a lot more to be done, but I'm glad to see that things are moving in a positive direction, though a little slow, no doubt. But we are happy to see that chemical exports are picking up, part of our business areas I'm talking about. Exports are picking up. We are glad to see that the demand for products is going up, is moving forward. To my mind, the question you asked originally, I don't think we'll come back to a normal before the first quarter of 21-22. I think it's going to take us at least 6 months more to establish the base, get all these problems sorted out, get people coming in for jobs. The real estate sector, the textile sector, some of these sectors are big employers of people. How do we get them to actually get a fillip through support, through financial help, so that it can give money, money to the people in their hands? I think the Manrega scheme has worked well. There is the talk one heard about Manrega being used for the urban poor also. I think it's a great idea. If they can do that, it will give money in the hands of people who need it. So please look at expanding the DBT program and giving it to the people at the lowest strata of society who need it more for their day-to-day requirements, day-to-day living, of lives and livelihood. That's where livelihood comes in, of giving it to people who need it. And that can give a sort of a comfort, of course, to them. They need it the most. And it can give a fillip to the economy. So I think there are many areas they have to look at. It's not an easy solution. State, center, companies, they all have to play a concerted, sort of a coordinated role in how to carry these things forward. But I think the direction is right.
Thank you so much. I think the intent of the government is very good. Broadly, I mean, there is a lot more to do, but the government has done its job of, being a catalyst in stopping the spread. We as individuals and communities have to be more disciplined and comply with SMS, social distancing, masks and sanitization to be able to deal, because it's a healthcare issue which is creating a economic issue. Now, Mr. Shriram, you beautifully explained to us how states have responded, how the agriculture economy will grow, because you have a very large presence there in the value chain. What I want to know from you, entrepreneurship is in your genes, right? You're one of the foremost business families. I'm almost 50 now, and from the time of maybe age of 8, I've known about your business empire and your family and the role it has played in nation building and not just being a commercial enterprise. Tell us, why should some businesses be social impact businesses? Every business by definition now should be a social impact businesses, because we've seen the labor migration, we've seen how disadvantaged they are. You're encouraged without even being prompted that the urban poor should be looked up from Manrega. So tell us, what is your view that every business enterprise has to be a social enterprise? Let's take Tata's, for example. Now, Tata's have been a social enterprise without being called. They have always moved with the country, whether it's in creating an airlines that works for the industry and the country, or is it doing Jamshedpur steel plant, which creates a new city, new community? So tell us, your family, your business enterprise is also very venerable, like the Tatas. So tell us, what are your views on this?
See, I think, frankly, as families set up enterprises, businesses, and they grow, part of the responsibility is all stakeholders. The stakeholders generally are considered those who are shareholders of banks and employees and customers and vendors, etc. But I think the way society is moving now, I think companies have a big responsibility to societies, more so around them. Where you are located, that's where you can actually use your resources to do something good for society there and then. This approach of being a socially responsible company was started by my great-grandfather, Sir Shriram, when in 1926 he set up Shriram College of Commerce, then Lady Shriram College. Then he set up many other education institutions. Our uncle set up Shriram School. So, it has been something which has been there. There have been cultural centers which have been set up. So this is something which is moving across the board. Our group itself also, because we are in the sugar business. So one of the areas where we are working very actively, which is part of the Prime Minister's program also, which is not social, but yet it is social, is doubling farmers' income.
Absolutely. It has such an impact on the rural economy and the lives of such a large population.
If I may say so, our sugar factory, we have about 1.5 lakh farmers supplying us sugarcane. In the last 5 years, productivity has gone up of sugarcane due to varieties of cane. So if you were to take, say, 4-5 years ago and today, the farmer income, because of the yield being better, because of our effort in improving the yield with the farmers, their income has gone up by 60-70% already. That is helping. We are looking at schools. We are running schools in the social area. We are very focused on water. We do believe as a group that water is a very scarce resource. And unfortunately, many people, including government and people, are not looking at it seriously enough. As it is in South India, we've seen, between states, there have been virtual wars over water. And down the line, it can get only worse. So we are focusing very actively on that. We are focusing on income at the village level. I think these are things companies need to do. Government also brought out the CSR spend policy where you have to put aside 2% of the net profit for the next year. This has forced companies also to look at active social work, which will help society around them. So I think this is something which is very, but it has to come from the heart. If you do it just as a sort of mechanical exercise, it won't carry that far. One has to do it from the heart. One has to do it with the right intention of helping people who need it. I think that is where this help can come in. And I think many companies, including ours, many others, during the Corona time have helped many states, many people, hospitals, etc., how to build up the infrastructure which is required during these difficult times. So I think the approach towards social requirements, what we are seeing in India, what we are seeing outside India, is a very positive direction which is moving. And our belief also is very strongly that we have to be socially responsible citizens. We have to take care of people around us, improve their livelihood, educate them, share with them, work with them, how to provide education to their children so that their life going forward becomes very different from what they experienced when they were children. I think these are things which we have to work on, which I think the awareness is increasing quite a bit, which is a very positive sign.
Thank you, Mr. Shriram. When you say something, it has a lot of gravitas because of how you live your own life and how you led your enterprise. And you've done justice to the legacy of your father, great-grandfather. Coming back to water, you talked about water. Sustainability for the first time has come to fore in a way that it's never been. Because we've realized we are all connected. How we use resources impacts all of us. And some of them are not infinite resources. We have limited pool. So how do we make sure we bring sustainability as the core of our enterprise? Like you brought social impact at the core, social impact, sustainability. And dare I say, Mr. Shriram, I keep saying we're in a 3C economy: compassionate and caring. We become more humble. We worry about other people more. Second is we are a collaborative. You have to collaborate internally, collaborate externally. And third is contactless. We have to imagine our businesses in a contactless way. So tell us, how do you see sustainability becoming an important issue and a core fabric of a large organization like yours? And it already is, but will it become even larger focus? Give us a sense of that.
So I think moving towards a more sustainable company and a more sustainable environment is an unending activity. One can never turn around and say, I've done it all, or I've reached the end. It will never happen. Whatever you do, you can do something better. I think that is something which we've also absorbed in our own system. We are, for instance, very actively trying to be more and more water sufficient in each of our enterprises. How are we not drawing more water? But I'll just come to first, Annurag, if you're asking the macro point of sustainability. Sustainability is above us in the air, it is on the ground where we are, and below us underground. We have to take care of all three. And one has to be very conscious that whatever one does, how is it going to be the most sustainable? You know, if you want to be 100% sustainable, we have to go back to the cave age or to the stone age. You know, then it's a different ballgame.
We don't have to fly. We don't have to use electricity, plastic waste. I mean, you're right. I mean, we have to strike a balance again.
Yeah, we have to strike that balance, but attempt towards moving to a more sustainable future by improving your emission standards, improving your discarding of waste, improving your own way of living and working, so that people get more conscious that I will be more and more conscious of my environment around me, and I want to leave an earth which is better for my children than what I have today. Unfortunately, it's a very big challenge. It's a very big challenge. But I think the consciousness towards sustainability is coming up a lot more now of how to maintain one's environment around you, how to maintain the domain around you. Government is bringing their own policies. But I think it has to come again, as I say, from the heart. We are working in our sugar factories to be totally self-sufficient in water because sugarcane gives out water. Can we come to a stage of not drawing any water underground? We are looking at how can we utilize water and reprocess it adequately in our other businesses. So we don't have to draw water. We have to just, consume less and less and less. How do we ensure rainfall is absorbed and goes down into the soil and is available so that it doesn't, then you have to otherwise, and the sad part is in many states and many societies, water is not given the due importance of a value. You give free water and free electricity. People leave the pump on whole night, let it rain. How does it matter to them? They don't look at it any other way. But I think resources, whatever resources, have to have a price. I think one has seen it in life. Anything free is not valued. There has to be something so people value getting that. And I think that's where water too needs to become a valuable asset, which people appreciate, is not unending and it's not something which will be available till eternity without any effort going in from us. So I think water requires a lot of work and a lot of effort down the line by all corporates and by the common man. I think it's required everywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Shriram. I just want to, Manish Tyagi is asking me on the Zoom chat. I keep saying, Mr. Shriram, we went from doom to Zoom. From doom to Zoom. So I hope we go to merry from Zoom, but at least in abundant way. He's asking me, ask Mr. Shriram, how do you think we can save water? How do you think we can conserve water? How do you think we can raise the consciousness of our farmers about saving water? That's what you alluded to it, but if you can give some more inputs.
I think, let's say take farming, because that's a major area where water consumption is very high. I think going in for a little more scientific farming, where one uses technology to actually, for instance, simple things like leveling the soil properly will ensure that water is absorbed uniformly across the board. Having a system by which one knows the quantity of water to be applied will help a lot in terms of the crop productivity. For instance, using soluble fertilizers with the water and getting the drip irrigation will actually bring about water saving and improvement in yield, because drip irrigation includes fertilizers in soluble form being applied to the plant, which will actually benefit the farmer and will give water conservation. So I think these are some steps which needs to be taken on the farming side. And I would say again, Annurag, what we were discussing, that I think water must be valued. Please don't give it free. When it is free, it has no value. Then it's,
I'm fully with you, sir. Fully with you.
That is something. I think all of us at home or in factories, we have to be conscious that government is also saying that, we're also saying that. Don't leave the tap on when you're brushing your teeth, when you're having a shower. You have to be more conscious of that. But the volume consumption, again, large extent is in industry. Industry has to be much more conscious again of how they're using water, where they're using water, how to recycle water, how to make sure that the water can, be protected from evaporation. I think all these factors play a major role in terms of conserving water across the board. One area where one can do very extensive conservation is rainwater harvesting. To give you an example, in our factory at Kota, we have made a rainwater harvesting pond, which is about 50 acres. We can store 4.5 lakh tons of water during the monsoon, during this, in this water body. Now that is again reused in the factory, so we don't have to draw water from the soil. So I'm saying again, these are methods by which one can actually conserve water going forward. And I think there are 20 ways to do it, but each one adds value. So it's worth looking at everything.
In fact, there are a lot of comments. Mr. Kamal Meetal, who I had the pleasure of knowing for the last 25 years, from my first when I entered the workplace, he says, when water is priced very low or free, how can one convince people that it should be used with care and water harvesting done, etc. Again, Manish Tyagi is making a comment. Shriya Mishra Mehra is asking, hello sir, what do you think about sustainable supply chains? Do you think it is the foundation of sustainability in businesses?
I think sustainability has to be from A to Z. Supply chain is a very integral part of it. It is required to be done from the vendor, from the business partner who's supplying, to the supply chain mechanism, how it goes. This is where optimizing your size of how to make your logistics more efficient, so that your each container load is the optimum size, so you're consuming per unit of load less fuel. All these things have to be looked at across the board in terms of sustainability. So sustainability has to come in a mindset form. I mean, we are seeing today how vehicles are getting more and more efficient in terms of emissions on one side, reducing that, and engine efficiency on the other for reducing fuel consumption. That is a tremendous direction of sustainability. So I think it has to be done on the supply chain side also very much. I think he's absolutely right. We have to move on this very actively. But it has to be, again, conscious exercise which has to carry on and on and on. It'll never finish.
Absolutely.
We are seeing now battery cars, and they are expanding so rapidly across the world. In India too, they are starting now. That's again a tremendous saving. But at the same time, let's not forget, energy required to charge the car has to come from an energy source. So there again, there is fuel being burnt, or there is renewable resources being used, or use it at night when the other consumption comes down. One has to figure out a balance in this entire area. But sustainability, for sustainability to come into the entire supply chain, for the entire industrial chain, for the entire human chain, I'll put it, is very important.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shriram. And I must tell you, I must use this platform, and almost 1,000 people between all our platforms right now. I must tell you that about 245 on Zoom, in spite of 6 months of webinars, this is my 136th webinar with a personality like Mr. Shriram. And my colleagues have done another 70, so about 200 webinars. I must tell you, this is excellent quality of audience, excellent quality of questions. And I must use the opportunity. And Mr. Shriram, this is because of you. And I really mean it when I say that. Your stature and the way you lived your life. And I want to tell you that Businessworld was the first media product in India to hire a sustainability editor 6 years back. And she has Ivy League credentials, worked in that domain. And we've launched our India's most sustainable companies rankings. They come out in November. Again, we partnered with the best. We partnered with a Paris-based company who's headed by an Indian. She formed it, and she's done fantastic work in sustainability. Sustain Labs Paris by Minya Chatterjee. So we partnered with them to bring out this ranking, and it'll be out in the second issue of Businessworld in November. And there is a site dedicated to it. You can get more information by mailing me at annurag.batra@businessworld.in or sonia.bajaj@businessworld.in. So clearly, we believe in what Mr. Shriram is evangelizing on the conversation. Mr. Shriram, let me pivot this conversation. Again, as I said, your DNA has entrepreneurship, right? I don't think you can deny that. A lot of my friends, their first jobs have been with you. A lot of my seniors and people who are my friends who run large companies, their first jobs have been in your company. Now, what is your advice to entrepreneurs? What has changed in the last 6 months that entrepreneurs must imbibe in their mindset, in their way of doing business, whether they're established entrepreneurs like yours, or they are mid-sized company owners, or they are startup entrepreneurs? What do you think has changed, and they should make that switch in their brain?
The entrepreneurship has to come from inside. Whichever individual wants to take up a new project with their own vision, with their own dreams of what they want to achieve in a 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year time frame, they have to start that. I think what 6 months has taught us is that money is something which is very easy to spend, but it is something difficult to actually keep and sustain. I think one has to be very careful.
To save money. For the first time, consciousness is costs have to be lower than revenue.
One has to look at that. Secondly, I think one has to pace out the entrepreneurship or your business plan in the way to have targets at periodic times, to see at what pace you're growing, so that you're achieving what you're targeting for. And each one learns by mistakes, and I'm sure there are enough examples. It's happened in our company to us also, it's happened to others also. How to balance.
I made a lot of mistakes.
All of us have done it. How to balance your expansion plans or growth plans so that it's measured. It doesn't go overboard due to your enthusiasm. Because we've learned one thing. The interest meter, when you borrow money, the interest meter never stops. No weekends, no holidays, no Republic Day, no Independence Day holiday. It is ticking 24/7. So one has to be very cautious. It's easy to borrow money, you get it on a lot of enthusiasm and interest, so I think that's the second. You have to be very careful. Third, and I think that's one of the most important again, all are, but this is get the right people. If people feel that I know it all, I can do it all, I think there's trouble. You have to get the right people who will support you as a team, and an entrepreneur more so has to find people smarter than himself or herself. That's the only way they will add value to what the business plans are going to be. So I think getting the right people is very important again. Fourth, I would say, is building relationships around them and getting outside-in feedback of what exactly is happening, how is the business world evolving in that particular focus area. So build a little team of advisors, if I may use that word.
Mentors.
Or brainstorming you can do with them to get a feedback. This is thinking, this is plan. Because 4 brains are better than 1. You'll get different ideas. Then you choose what you want to do. That's your choice. So I think one has to be cautious, because we are seeing going forward, businesses are under stress as it is. It will take some time to come back to normal. But even then, companies have lost a lot of business. They've lost a lot of cash flow. They've lost a lot of profitability. So they will be very careful in the future. So one has to be more cautious now, I think, than what you were in the past. and be careful about how you want to spend the money and grow. I think that's going to be important.
Thank you, Mr. Shriram. Mr. Shriram is saying conserve cash, be frugal, have when you start new projects, first see them to fruition or success, measure that success, learn from it, then do something new. Like I'll tell you, Mr. Shriram, when I started doing webinars, I would look at my phone, I would text. Today, when I'm doing a webinar, I'm fully with you. I'm free. And that just makes me learn something. I'm fully. So be in the moment. Do one thing at a time. I'm not now a big proponent of multitasking. I've done it all my life. I think I do now one thing at a time. And I think it is a better way to live than doing multitasking. Multitasking only, it's an enemy of excellence, dare I say. So launch one project, make it successful, and then build on it. Conserve cash. Frugality matters. You have to do something over a long period of time. Brainstorming matters. Mentoring matters. And Mr. Shriram, I use this saying, a very wise man told me that learn from old people or older people what not to do, and learn from younger people what to do. I would say you can also learn from older people because they got a lot of things right for their time and their space. But I believe in the power of reverse mentoring, what you learn from your son or your grandchildren or younger people who are millennials, because they have wired a little differently than us. They're a digital native. They have abundance. So they think a little differently. So we can learn some things from them. I do learn from my two children. Coming to, yes.
I think good people is the key.
Yes.
For startups or whether it's an organization. I mean, even like ours, which is now over 120 years old. So we are 30 years old as a new company from 1990. But our focus, and every company is right people. Unless you have the right people, you can't go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Shriram. There are lots of questions. Praveen Pathak, Amit Saxena, Satyanarayan Tyagi. I'll take them at the end. I made a note of the. There's questions. Some questions Mr. Shriram has already answered on the agriculture economy, on seeds, but I'll still bring them in if he still wants to add. Let me ask you my last question about business, and I'll ask you two personal questions. When you talk to your fellow entrepreneurs, the big business tycoons of India, industrialists, what is the sense you get? And I want a very real, honest about the future. You've given me your sense that it will take at least the first quarter of 2021 to start coming back and possibly another 12 months to be fully back. That's what I understood. And I think that's a realistic assessment. If things happen before that, we are lucky. And we'll take it up from there. So what is the sense you get when you talk to your friends who run similar businesses, large enterprises, whose value advice has turned into wisdom and come true in the past? Give us a sense of that.
I think going forward, I think the way business is run is going to change because of what we've seen in the last 6 months. One cannot go with the same approach towards organization structure, processes, systems. Agility has to come in. Decision making has to be pushed down. One has to move in a much more entrepreneurial way and make each manager level person a little more responsible for their own areas of business and working and have their own enthusiasm to develop something there. I think we have to move on that very, very aggressively. When we discussed with friends also, there is a sense of caution which has come in of how you want to look at the future. Maybe 2 years later, the approach will change. But I think right now, there is definitely a sense of caution. Everyone is holding back capital expenditure, for instance. One is being more cautious on how one wants to spend money because you don't know if the corona thing carries on for the next 1 year or 1.5 years. Until you get a good vaccine, until you get a good cure, you don't know how it's going to evolve. So one has to be a little cautious. There is a sense that, look, don't try to, copy XYZ and just say that because X is doing it, I'm also going to do it. I think you have to look at your own position in an open-minded, critical way of where each of us stand in our own business environment, in our own relationship with customers, with vendors, with suppliers, and what is our strengths and weaknesses, and how are we capitalizing on that. So I think there is a sense of a little more conservative approach towards how one wants to look at business in the future. At the same time, definitely all organizations looking at cost cutting, how to become more efficient, how to reduce your own expenditure so you can actually add more value to the company or the customer. Because at the end of the day, the customer's also got a choice. How are you going to add value so that you can become a preferred supplier by being more efficient, either in terms of processes or systems or cost? One has to look at the entire way going forward in a different way. I'll just add one more, that today, using technology, digital technology, comes in as a very big factor for whether it's customer satisfaction, whether it's your own efficiencies, or whether it's the vendor relationship and how to work with your vendors. I think this digital technology, using AI, using artificial intelligence, using all these sort of mechanics which are available today by providing a better service to customers, I think these things are going to play a very important role going forward. So companies have to change their mindset. How to use technology more effectively to become more efficient wherever they are, whether it's a commodity or whether it's a consumer product. I think this is applicable across the board everywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Shriram. Can I tell you what is my central takeaway from you for all our viewers, readers? By the way, while we have a very large audience here, the beauty about videos is they can be watched again. It's a fantastic interview. You can watch it on the BW YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that. You can also watch it on my social handles. It will also be in the next issue of BW Businessworld magazine. BW Businessworld website, businessworld.in, which is doing about 30 million average traffic, up from about 12 million 6 months back. So clearly, this interview is something that you can go back to, watch it in leisure. But my central takeaway from what you said, Mr. Shriram, is that you're looking for entrepreneurial talent, who can be entrepreneurial within your company and create excellence and hopefully become, in a metaphorical way, co-owners of the business, and there is satisfaction and reward for them. Dare I say, colleagues have become more. I can tell you about my colleagues. Media is in a very tough space because advertising has dried up. But I can tell you, my colleagues have done a great job in the last 6 months, taken ownership, have been open to ideas, and because of them, we are where we are today in the last 6-7 months. But I want to also say what you said about doing less things. I keep saying, I'm a person who does a lot, but I keep asking myself, why am I doing this? What is the outcome I desire? Does it fall into my long-term plan? Do I want to do this every day? So I ask these questions and I keep asking myself, as I said in the morning, one shouldn't take activity for progress. Just because we're doing a lot of activity, is the activity leading to progress? In fact, you have to take a pause to be able to do progress. Activity doesn't lead to progress. Pause sometimes does. Which gives, when I was 10 years old or 8, my father, who studied at BITS Pilani, chose to be a professor, the most honest person I know, I still have his blessing, told me two things. One, the Robert Frost poem, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep. You have miles to go and miles to go before you sleep." That became something on my table, on my desk. And second thing, he told me one thing, which I implement today, is, do one thing. I'm a very avid reader. So when I read, I don't keep my phone. That's good. When I eat, but I read. So my dad would take away my book when I was younger. I realized I stopped reading when I'm eating. I'm only eating. No phone, nothing. Because I chew better. I eat less. He's been telling me for 40 years, but I've got it right in the last 6 months. So, and a lot of other things that I introspect about. And again, I want to say, don't worry about people, what they say on social media. They may be fake profiles. They may have motives. You know what is your intent and who you are. Don't worry too much. And, they may not have even achieved anything in their life to be able to guide you and not have a positive intent. Let me not say achieve. Everyone achieves something in there. So I think it has made me more philosophical in the last 6 months. And as Mr. Shriram rightly said, go within to find answers. When you can't go out, go within. I think it's the best time. I'm very mindful of what has happened in the last 6 months. And I pray Corona goes away and there is every life matters. So, I pray that it goes away. Let me ask now two personal questions, Mr. Shriram. One, you achieved everything. One, you brought up your family, you kept it together, your brothers, your son. I mean, in India, Inc., there are fights between large industrialists and their sons, so on and so forth. I don't want to go into that. But just keeping of course, amongst brothers, that is very visible for the last 20 years in many businesses. But you kept your family together. You kept your brothers together. What is the secret of making sure that in family-owned businesses, there is harmony, there is love, there is camaraderie, there is collaborativeness? I would like to know that from you.
When DCM got restructured in 1990, at that time, my brother Vikram, who's 4 years younger than me and myself, we were executives in other branches of the DCM group. And suddenly one day we became managing directors. So, both of us came into a position of responsibility to a much higher level than what we'd sort of worked at before. So I think couple of things which we did in the beginning, I think got touch wood, it worked well. We got an outside chairman to our company. We had Mr. Mantosh Sondi who came in as the chairman. So he brought in a lot of processes and systems and transparency. So that helped us on the company side. As a family, and 5 years after that, my youngest brother, Ajit, came into the business among ourselves and realized that, look, we are all human beings. I will say something you don't like. You will say something I don't like. This happens between husband and wife. It happens between son and father, daughter and mother.
Brothers and brothers.
Everyone.
They are two different human beings.
Different human beings. But can we talk about it and get it off our chest? So if the intention is not wrong and we are talking, it's perfectly all right. So we started, three of us.
And a common goal.
I'll come to that also. So we said in terms of our communication and sharing, for 20 years ago, we started working with a consultant, a behavioral scientist, who would take us on a retreat for 3 days or 4 days, just to share what's on our mind, ask us questions about each other, and asked us to openly talk about it in front of everyone else. So I'll just give you a couple of examples of what he made us do. He said, each of you describe your third brother and share it. Then he said, write down all you want to. If you go out and write down everything about your third brother and come and tell us what it is. He said, tell us 2 things you like about each other, 2 things you don't like about each other. I'm saying by just openly sharing, talking, you remove the cobwebs from the mind. You remove that sort of apprehension or that sort of festering which sort of grows and one day explodes.
Angst. It becomes angst.
How to move that out? Secondly, we've taken a very conscious view, and this used to happen when we were physically in the office. We would have lunch together every day, 3 of us. Any issue at all, we would talk about it. I think the people in our company knew that there are certain matters where all 3 have to agree. Otherwise, it can't move. Yes, there may be a delay, so be it. But that's the policy we felt is better for all 3 of us. We still have that. So that still moves in a certain structured way. Whereas each one is more involved with a particular business, so they are looking at things in a more distinct manner. But otherwise, we've taken an approach that 3 brains are better than 1. And I'm being honest with you, you asked earlier, Annurag, about friends. 2-3 friends of mine who are actually, just one son who's running the business. They've said, Ajay, you're so lucky to have brothers, to be with you and to share with you and talk to you. So you have people who can also, give you advice, you can take their advice, they can take your advice. And
there is an emotional connect. Ultimately, you're brothers.
Yeah. So how do you do that? And we realized also, if I may say so, at the end of the day, when you go upstairs, you don't take anything of these with you anyway. So, if one can look at it a little more open-minded way, that keep this connect going. So we've had this communication we have, the sharing we have, I think this has given us a lot of strength and a lot of bonding, which has been very important to us. Now we have 4 members of the next gen who are also in the company. We have structured occasions for all 7 of us to meet. We got together again, the whole family, 7 years ago, made a family constitution. So that has also become a guiding principle of how we want the family to move, what are our values, what are our beliefs, what is the long-term thinking, what is the philosophy we want to adopt to keep the family together. One more phrase we use among us is that families that play together stay together. So how do we have holidays together? How do we spend time informally with the wives, with the children, with our mother, our father earlier, all of us? How do we spend time together? So that, we all get into a unified family. And by God's grace, touch wood, I think it's worked well. We are still very much akin to working together. Yes, we have differences. There's no two ways on that. We're all human beings. But we can talk about it and share it. And give and take is a part of life. I think that's how, by God's grace, it's worked for us.
Absolutely. You need God's benevolence, you need that serendipity. But as you rightly said, the intent matters. I think in everything, intent matters. And you're so right that, it can be a blessing to have a collaborative environment, an open environment with your brothers or family members to be able to. Fantastic. Thank you for being so candid and for being so honest. My last question to you, Mr. Shriram, you achieved everything. You've been a CII president. I was trying to prepare and I realized you have been chairman of 11 industry bodies. I mean, you have good health. You built a business. You've done it all. You're on the cover of magazines. You're still very respected and revered. Is there anything left for Mr. Ajay Shriram to achieve? Is there a bucket list that Mr. Ajay Shriram has?
No, I feel privileged of what all has happened in the last 25, 30 years more so, on the family side and on the external side. And it's been a great learning of being associated. Even today, I'm privileged to share a Shriram College or an IIM, etc., etc. But I don't really have a bucket list. Now, my thinking now more is, how does the family environment move in a smooth manner going ahead? How is the business structured in a way that for the next 25 years, when we are no longer there and the next gen comes in?
By the way, there are medicines coming that will make you live beyond 100, 150. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. I'll send you an article. So if you don't, if you live another 10 years, which by God's grace, I'm sure you will, then you can live till 150 possibly.
No, you're right. But I'll be honest, I think just being content with the family around us, being content with the people in the office around us, because they are like family. We do consider our employees as family. And I think just having that sort of mental peace is all one wants. We are not in a rat race. We decided we'll do what is at our pace. Yet, by God's grace, in spite of that, Annurag, if one sees, I'll leave aside this year, or last year also was a little tough because of Corona. But otherwise, we've grown from the last 25, 27, 28 years. Our turnover has gone up by about 14, 15% CAGR. Our bottom line has gone up by about 17, 18% CAGR over the last 25 years. So I think we are very blessed. We are very blessed with that. We have a very clear-cut philosophy within the family of how we will operate, which gives clarity to all of us. And I think I'm so happy that we have the family, we have the business, we have the people in the business, and we have what we have. We have a circle of friends which we are blessed to be with. So there is work in terms of, as I was saying, future of business, future of family, settling down. All that is part of the ballgame. That is very much on my mind, which one has to work on across the board in collaborative working with other members of the family. But otherwise, by God's grace, I'm blessed that where we are today.
Thank you. Absolutely. It is about a higher force. It's about the universe. We can call it God. We can call it benevolence. I'm two add-on questions from the questions that are coming. Pawan Jaggi saying there are lots of comments. You can read it in the Zoom chat. Your team can share it with you. I know you were kind enough to invite me for a lunch 5 years back. You haven't invited me for a lunch for 5 years, Mr. Shriram. But what does food mean to you? You talked about health, you talked about exercise, you talked of immunity. But I know you told me that you love food. So tell me, what does indulgence in food mean to you?
God. I'll be honest with you. As I tell people, I said, I don't have a sweet tooth. I have sweet teeth. So many of them. So I think as age catches on, I think a realization comes in that you have to get more cautious.
Clearly, you're trying to consume more sugar so that the market grows.
But I think you realize with age that you have to discipline yourself more. So I'm a passionate foodie, and for many years I've enjoyed veg, non-veg, Thai, everything. But I think that realization has come a little bit that you have to discipline yourself. So what I do, because I still have an urge to eat it, definitely. I still have a sweet tooth. So how does one moderate the input of some of these things? And let's say, okay, on once a week you can indulge on a particular thing, but balance it out. I think this is where balance, but food has been a very major part of my life, and that has given me happiness and given me sadness because of its in terms of weight and all that sort of stuff, it created a problem in its own way. But I think now a little more discipline is coming in, and I'm enjoying food, but in a more structured, disciplined manner.
Good. Mr. Shriram, who are the people, there is someone who asked this question, who are your inspiration? Who are the people you look up to? Amit Saxena has asked that. So who are the people you look up to for inspiration or have looked at for inspiration? Give us a few names. Of course, your father, grandfather, mother.
I'll tell you, my parents, the value system they have given us is unbelievable. I'll give you a small example since you've asked this question. When I was 11 years old, when I was younger, I was very much into photography. And when I was 11, my father from London, he brought a photographic enlarger to be used in a dark room. I had a dark room at our house in Calcutta. He brought that for me and landed at Bombay airport. The customs guy asked him, he said, sir, how much did you pay for this? So my father said, 70 pounds. The custom fellow said, sir, if you declare it at 50, you won't have to pay any duty. He said, no, I can't do that. I have paid 70. You please charge me duty. But that is what my actual payment is. That fellow was taken aback. And simultaneously on the same trip, he brought us a .22 air gun. The customs guy took my father to the police station to get the clearance of that air gun and brought it back. I think this is what values are all about. And this is where, so the values our parents have given us, my father and mother.
Your father was this giant Indian industrialist, ahead of his time.
Unbelievable values. In our own family, we've had so many, Dr. Batra, Dr. Charatra, they've all had their own inspiration, their own teachings to all of us. One person I respect a lot, who's respected a lot, he's no longer there now, is Mr. Dharamveera, who was earlier on, he's been the governor of Karnataka and many other states. He was a bureaucrat. But he was such a valuable, open-minded, helpful personality with tremendous values, tremendous beliefs. And I respect him even today. I think of him a lot and respect him a hell of a lot. As a person who's taught me, because I used to meet him very frequently, because when I did my college in Bombay, his son was in Bombay, I used to meet him a lot. So that I've learned a lot from him. And actually, I would say mentally, my mind is open. What can one pick up from where? So one can learn things from everywhere. But some of these things are what have actually impacted me in terms of my outlook in life. And I would say to a degree, our brothers have seen the same thing. So we are trying to follow these values in our company too. How do we look at, values, beliefs, transparency, honesty, how do we, our reputation, image, these things play a very important role to us. Because this is what carries forward a person. Short-term money is not so important. Long-term stability is more important in a business than
Absolutely.
We are trying to follow some of these principles.
Thank you, Mr. Shriram. Lots of questions coming in. There's Kiran Kulkarni who asked a question 40 minutes back. She asked, what do you think about the fertilizer economy? What will happen to it? There's somebody who's asked about hybrid seed. Satyanaran Tyagi, what will happen to hybrid seed? And there's one philosophical question from Shweta Sinha. She asked, what is the one single trait that a leader must have? She's my ex-colleague. She's from Businessworld. I guess that a great colleague. She worked with me. Those were very tough times for us, but she did a fantastic job for us. So Shweta is asking you, and let me build on the leadership question. Pre-COVID, there were certain leadership traits that mattered. Has something got added after COVID? So first, Kiran Kulkarni asking about fertilizer economy. What will happen to that?
Fertilizer as a product is very critical to the Indian economy because of the agriculture, where over 60% of our population is. And our productivity, if you look at it compared to other countries, is still very low. So we require our per hectare use of fertilizers is very low compared to other countries. We have to scientifically, in a measured, structured way, improve our fertilizer consumption to improve the yield, which ultimately will improve farmers' income. So fertilizer is a very important part of the economy. At the same time, because of the price controls, it's a difficult economy. Because, like for instance, we are in the urea business. For the last 7-8 years that I can remember, at the end of the financial year, for all urea companies, the subsidy which they want to give to the farmer, they give it through the factories, through the urea companies. So our outstanding is almost 35 to 40,000 crores. So that's a very big challenge. But fertilizer is a very critical part of the Indian economy. It is required to be manufactured, and it is required to be available to the farmers. What's important to add on to fertilizers, I would say, is technology inputs for more efficient use of fertilizers to give higher productivity on the field. I think that is something that needs to be done on the fertilizer front, which can actually help. Second, you asked about hybrid seeds. I think hybrid seeds again is a very crucial issue where we have to be open to see how one can provide a better seed to the farmer so that productivity, quality, longevity, and today through genetic engineering, the quality of seeds can be improved dramatically. You can put in nutrients through the seed, which can provide it in the finished product. So I think this requires to be done. I would say, frankly, I would feel even GM seeds, because now there are 19 or 20 products worldwide which are used, which are GM seeds for food. And they've been there for the last 20 years. So why are we being so conservative and so shy in doing a scientific research mechanism as per the government policy? We must allow these things to happen so that it actually helps the farmer too. I'll give an example of BT cotton. Once GM cotton seeds came in the last 7-8 years, productivity of cotton has gone up 3 times. Farmer income has gone up more than 3 times. This is a win-win across the board. So I think these are some things on the hybrid seeds business where research is very important. Of course, growing it and propagating is very important. And then ultimately getting new products which can help the farmer and the consumer is something which is worth looking at. I think hybrid seeds is also very important. And the third question aapne pucha tha?
Leadership pe, one single trait, and post-COVID even more important.
Frankly speaking, in today's world, in today's environment, I think a leader has to be very concerned about their people, get the right person for the right job at the right time. I think if that can be done and give them the authority to take decisions, we're all human beings. Everyone will make a mistake. As I said once somewhere else, I said, if you don't make a mistake, you're either God or you don't take a decision.
Or you're my wife. My wife, not yours.
Ultimately, one has to have that little empathy. One has to have that approach towards nurturing people. Because to our mind, an organization is nothing but people. Getting good people is what can make success or not make success.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Shriram. I could go on talking to you for hours, but it's been an honor chatting up with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed my conversation. Some of the things I know I've got reinforced and I've learned new things. I'm sure all our audience has enjoyed it. And for those of you who want to watch the full interview, subscribe to the Businessworld YouTube channel, watch it on my social media handles, and read it in the Businessworld magazine. Thank you, Mr. Shriram, for talking to us. It was an honor and privilege to talk to you. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much.